Now, last season, right, a lot of Florida fans were making it seem like Anthony Richardson was the problem with the offense and he was holding the Gators offense back, right? So I was really excited since Anthony Richardson was the reason for why the Gators offense was being held back and him completing 53% of the passes. I was really excited to see who was going to be the next quarterback for the Florida Gators going into this season. And then I get some news that pops up on my phone that Graham Mertz has transferred to the University of Florida. And I ain't do nothing but laugh. So people are going to knock Anthony Richardson, right? But then they're going to bring in Graham Mertz. And then the spring game happens. And Graham Mertz performs at the way that we all thought he would. And then, not just that, but you got Jack Miller, who also didn't perform well in the spring game. So people want to blame AR for holding back Florida's offense. They just want to scapegoat AR and put all of Florida's offensive problems on him. And yet, you watch that spring game, and the offense looks even worse than what it did last year with Anthony Richardson, the guy who Gators fans tried to say couldn't complete a pass accurately to save his life. The only thing he could do is run. They tried to say that he was playing to protect himself because he didn't want to get injured. Like, it was so crazy how the Gators fan base, not all of you guys, but a lot of you guys just changed on Anthony Richardson. Like, week one after he had that spectacular performance against Utah, you guys were hyping this guy up to be the next great Florida quarterback since Tebow. And then he has a couple of bad games, and then all of a sudden, the fan base just turns on him. And it's not like Anthony Richardson had a bad season last year. It was his first year starting. He was learning a new system with a new head coach. And plus, this guy was fairly inconsistent. I don't think he was bad, okay? If the dude was bad and he was garbage and he couldn't play, I promise you he wouldn't have gotten drafted 4th overall by the Indianapolis Colts. Anthony Richardson, was he great? No, he wasn't. But was he bad? I don't think he was. He was inconsistent. And that was a large reason why many people said that Anthony Richardson should have returned to Gainesville for another season. But to say that Anthony Richardson was holding back Florida's offense, I think you're a little bit crazy. Because did you not see the shit that you put out in that spring game? And you got Florida fans trying to say, man, it's just the spring game, man. Like, we got time to improve. Like, our defense was looking really good. Yeah, your defense was looking really good, but then you want to point out the fact that you were missing a couple of starters on the offensive line to try to make up excuses for why the quarterback play was as bad as what it was. That doesn't make any sense to me. And you want to know something? The Gators are going to be in a lot of trouble this season, not just with their quarterback situation, but you also got to think about this. Do you remember what people were saying about Justin Herbert when he was coming out of Oregon after his final season? They were saying a lot of similar things. They were saying Justin Herbert is going to be a future buzz. He wasn't good at Oregon. And then he goes to the Chargers and he has the greatest rookie season ever for a first-year quarterback. And then everybody's saying, wow, like, how was he not this good at Oregon? Oh, Oregon's offense, surprise, surprise, was holding him back. So imagine if Anthony Richardson ends up going off year one this year for the Indianapolis Colts. That's going to be a really bad look on Florida's coaching staff, because then if you're a transfer portal quarterback or you're a potential high school recruit and you're thinking about going to Florida to play QB, you look at Anthony Richardson balling out in the NFL, you ask yourself, why wasn't he able to do that at Florida? But yet, Gator fans try to make it seem like he was the problem. You see, I'm not trying to say that Anthony Richardson was flawless, but I do think that not enough Florida fans put enough blame on the offensive play calling last year. Billy Napier, I have a lot of faith and confidence in Billy Napier. I watched a lot of him when he was at Louisiana Lafayette with the Raging Cajuns, and he had Levi Lewis at QB, and you had Elijah Mitchell at running back. I'm a big fan of Billy Napier. But when he got Anthony Richardson, he got a Lamborghini, and he basically treated it like it was a Honda Civic with the conservative offense that he was running. Like, his offense wasn't great. I don't think his offense really maximized all of Anthony Richardson's potential and his talent, which is why when Anthony Richardson ends up going off for the Indianapolis Colts, people are going to start asking and looking at Billy Napier and that coaching staff, and they're going to be like, damn, Anthony Richardson was that bad, but yet he's balling out for the Indianapolis Colts. That's going to be a really bad look. And you look at the quarterback situation. Graham Mertz, dog, are you serious? You got what? Anthony Richardson was so bad, but you go from him to Graham Mertz? What are we doing? How many games is Florida going to win this season? Because right now they have an over-under win total right now of 5.5. And to be honest with you, I think there's a good chance that they don't even make it to a bowl game this season. They're playing in the SEC East. You got to play Georgia. You got to play Tennessee. Kentucky is going to be really good this year. I mean, bro, that's like 3 automatic losses. And the good thing for Anthony Richardson is that even though he wasn't the most polished passer, he was an incredible athlete, and his athleticism got Florida out of a lot of jams last year. You don't have that athleticism in Graham Mertz or Jack Miller. Florida just had the lowest scoring spring game in program history. And yet, you look at the Florida Gators, this offense, it was so bad with Anthony Richardson at the helm at QB, but yet, it looks even worse with Graham Mertz and Jack Miller. They really went into the transfer portal and got Graham Mertz. And there were really fans trying to get behind this. Now, most of you Gators fans, to your credit, you knew what you were getting in Graham Mertz. You weren't expecting anything crazy. But there were really people out there who were trying to say, man, Graham Mertz can't be no worse than what Anthony Richardson was throwing the football. Like, all Anthony Richardson did was throw the ball in the damn dirt. Well, that's all I saw Jack Miller and Graham Mertz doing in the spring game was throwing the ball in the damn dirt. This offense looked atrocious. And even though you were down a couple of starters, there's only so much improvement that this offense can make within the span of now to the start of week 1 against Utah. Like, if you guys were to play Utah today right now, they would drag y'all. Now, they probably wouldn't do y'all extremely bad. They probably wouldn't blow y'all out because y'all defense, I do believe, is going to improve with y'all new defensive coordinator. But this offense right now is in a lot of trouble. And it's not like you guys have a completely bad roster. The wide receiving core, you got Pretty Ricky, you got Xavier Henderson, you have one of the best running back rooms in all of college football, but you don't have a good quarterback. And you're not Georgia. You don't have a Todd Monken calling the plays where he can take a guy like a Graham Mertz or a Jack Miller and elevate him like how Todd Monken did with Stetson Bennett. You're not at that level. You don't have that talent. You don't have a talented enough team that can carry a guy like Graham Mertz or Jack Miller and make those guys look better than what they are, like Georgia did with Stetson Bennett. Florida right now is in a lot of trouble. I held back on making this segment because I thought that Billy Napier was going to go into the transfer portal and bring in some help. Like Auburn, I love Robbie Ashford, and I'm pretty sure Hugh Freeze does too. But he went ahead and he got Pan Thorne out of the transfer portal. He went ahead and got some additional help at quarterback. So I was thinking that Billy Napier and them were going to do the same. And apparently they got their NIL collective together. So I was thinking that they were going to go ahead, spin the bag, and go ahead and bring in a good transfer quarterback. But nah, they opt to go with Graham Mertz and Jack Miller into this season. Like, how can any of you Florida fans expect this offense to be better than what it was with Anthony Richardson? This offense looks really bad. Really bad. I mean, We thought that Florida was going to somewhat make some strides and improvement after last season. We were thinking that they were going to go into the transfer portal and get a quarterback after everything that went wrong with the Jalen Rashada situation. Some people thought that they were going to get Grayson McCall from Coastal Carolina, but there are some rumors out there that said that didn't end up happening because he didn't have the grades or whatever was the reasoning. But Florida doesn't have a damn quarterback. And this team, they got some talent. It's just that they don't really have the quarterback situation settled. And I'm a big fan and a big believer in Billy Napier, but I'm kind of a little bit disappointed in how he's went about this situation. And you can say, well, JT, we knew this was going to take time. This was going to be a rebuild. But it's like in this day and age of the NIL era and the transfer portal era, if you have holes, you should be able to go into the transfer portal and fix them. Drop a bag, spend that bread, get a good QB in there, and let's go win some damn football games. Come on, you went into the transfer portal and got Graham motherfreaking Mertz? Are you serious? I was watching Florida spring game 3 times, and what blew me was how they were telling the story about how Billy Napier called Paul Chryst before they offered Graham Mertz just to get another opinion on him. You think that Paul Chryst is going to just crap on Graham Mertz? Of course the dude is going to gas him up. He recruited him. The dude was the quarterback of the worst offense in the damn Big Ten. You talk about Anthony Richardson holding back Florida's offense last year. Graham Mertz was holding Wisconsin's offense hostage. I really think that the Gators are in a lot of damn trouble going into this season with what I saw from that damn spring game. You guys made it seem like Anthony Richardson was so awful. But yeah, you go from him to Graham Mertz. A lot of you guys are going to be wishing when this season starts that you had Anthony Richardson again. You are. You guys are going to miss Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson was not bad. He wasn't great. He was just inconsistent. He was young. He got drafted 4th overall by the Indianapolis Colts for a reason. And a lot of the Indianapolis coaching staff, they're really excited about Anthony Richardson. There's been reports that Anthony Richardson is better than what initially was reported when he was first coming out of Florida. People were saying he was a raw passer. He didn't have good pocket presence. Well, all of those things, the Indianapolis Colts coaching staff, they're praising. His teammates, Jonathan Taylor, the rookie wide receiver, Josh Downs, that they drafted from UNC, they've been hyping Anthony Richardson up. Everybody in the Colts organization is excited about Anthony Richardson. So if he ends up going off this year, what does that say about Billy Napier and Florida's coaching staff? Anthony Richardson goes to the NFL and balls out despite everybody expecting him to be a bust and not having the greatest season at Florida. But yet, he ends up going to the league and performing at a really high level, better than what he did in college. That's not going to be a good look on Billy Napier. And when you think about these high school recruits that are quarterbacks that are thinking about going to Florida, or potential transfer portal QBs who are thinking about going to the University of Florida, and they see AR balling out in the NFL, but yet they look back on what he did his final season at Florida, they probably would think twice about going to UF. Because if you can't get Anthony Richardson playing at a high level and he's performing better at the professional level than he was at a collegiate level, that's a problem. Normally, you have quarterbacks who ball out in college and struggle to make the jump in the NFL because it's a different ball game. It's more difficult. So why would Anthony Richardson struggle in college but yet be good in the NFL? Make it make sense, people. 1 + 1 = 2, not 3 or 4. You guys are going to be in for a long-ass season with Graham Mertz and Jack Miller at the helm at quarterback. I promise you, you guys are not going to shock the world. You guys aren't going to get all that better. Your defense is probably going to be able to carry you in a couple of games. But if you're really going to put your faith in Graham Mertz and Jack Miller being able to potentially win you 6 or more games, I think you're kind of lying to yourself. I think you're kind of trying to get yourself excited about these quarterbacks when you really should just be real with yourself. Many of you guys who were harping on Anthony Richardson not being good, you guys are going to be in for a rude reality check when you play Utah week 1. And you're not going to have that superstar ability that AR had to bail you out. You're going to have Graham Mertz or Jack Miller starting under center for you this year, and it's not going to be pretty. Anthony Richardson, you say this guy, all he did was throw balls in the dirt. I saw Graham Mertz overthrow an easy RPO pass in Florida spring game. Right, the dude, it was just a simple RPO run pass option. The dude is wide open in the middle of the field, and Graham Mertz overthrows him. All he was doing was putting balls in the dirt. Like, what was Graham Mertz's completion percentage at Wisconsin? Let me go ahead and look this up while I'm at it. Since everybody wants to harp on Anthony Richardson completing 53 and 55% of his passes, let's see what Graham Mertz did his final season at Wisconsin. I really want to see what was his completion percentage at Wisconsin, since people want to use that to harp on damn Anthony Richardson. This dude threw 19 touchdowns and 10 interceptions last year, and he completed 57.3% of his passes. He ain't no better. He looks worse. This dude threw 19 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Wasn't that the same stat line AR had last year? And plus, he had negative 40 rushing yards. This ain't no damn upgrade. If anything, you kind of downgraded, because now you don't have the athleticism. And we know that Jack Miller, he probably ain't the answer neither. We saw what he did against Oregon State. You can say, well, JT, we had like 20-something players out. Okay, cool. But this dude wasn't even good in last year's spring game. He wasn't good in last year's spring game, and he didn't show any signs of improvement in this year's spring game. Oh, well, the offensive line wasn't good, but your defense is so great, though. Which one is it? You see, that's the thing about these spring games. You don't really know what to decipher, what to gather. I'm a Miami Hurricanes fan. Tyler Van Dyke was not good last year, but it was mainly because of Josh Gattis. And the spring game this year rolls around and Tyler Van Dyke looks much better with a new offensive coordinator. So you look at Florida right now, and you look at their quarterback situation, they're in a lot of trouble. If all you guys who were nagging on Anthony Richardson, saying the guy was a bum, he was jabroni, he wasn't good, he couldn't throw an accurate pass, go back and watch that spring game. I didn't really see any improvement. The quarterback position looks like a little bit of a downgrade. I promise you, when you guys play Utah week 1, you're going to be wishing you had Anthony Richardson. You are. You guys kind of took Anthony Richardson for granted. Billy Napier, his offense, didn't really do a good job at putting Anthony Richardson in situations to succeed. Yeah, they were able to use him on a couple of zone reads and design quarterback runs. And yeah, they tried to push the ball downfield at times. But for the most part, the dude didn't have the greatest wide receiving core. You weren't really all that deep at the position. The run game was pretty good, but that was about it. This offense was conservative. You had a Lamborghini and you treated it like a Honda Accord. So if you're having this conservative offensive philosophy for Anthony Richardson, what are you going to do with Graham Mertz? Like, Graham Mertz, if anything, he needs way more coaching because he's not as talented as Anthony Richardson. And he's not a more accurate passer than him. He's not a better quarterback than him. I'll take Anthony Richardson over Graham Mertz or Jack Miller any day of the week. And I'd probably take a handful more quarterbacks over Graham Mertz and Jack Miller. I mean, Kentucky went in the transfer portal and got Devin Leary, former quarterback for NC State. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC. Alabama, they had some concerns about their quarterback position, so guess what they did? They went in the transfer portal and they got Tyler Buckner. Last year, when Brian Kelly first arrived in Louisiana, guess what he did? He went in the transfer portal and got Jaden Daniels. You see, Florida, is too big of a program to be going in and trying to rehabilitate guys. This isn't going to be a Bo Nix or Michael Penix situation. Graham Mertz wasn't good at Wisconsin. You want to say, hey, y'all was holding back Florida's offense? Well, Graham Mertz was holding Wisconsin's offense hostage. I promise you that a lot of Wisconsin fans are really happy that Graham Mertz is gone. And I promise you that a lot of opposing defenses are really upset that Graham Mertz is gone, because every time you played against Wisconsin, you had a good chance to look really good on defense and have some really good film when you played against Wisconsin, because you knew Graham Mertz was going to throw you a lot of duck balls, and you knew that Graham Mertz was going to make you look good because the guy wasn't a good QB at Wisconsin. The guy isn't going to be all that better at Florida. If anything, he's going to look worse. He's going to look worse. Florida's in a lot of trouble right now. I hate the fact that some of you all tried to scapegoat Anthony Richardson. Turn on this man, try to say he quit on the team, he quit on the program, he was only thinking about himself. This is the same guy who recently, after the Indianapolis Colts had early breakfast, he stayed after to help the janitors clean up. They said, Anthony Richardson, you don't got to do this. You don't got to stay after to help us clean up. You're the 4th overall pick of the draft. You're above this. He said, no, like, it's not fair that we left this mess for y'all. This is the same Anthony Richardson that stayed after several games in the parking lot, signing autographs for fans, throwing passes to people's kids. And yeah, you guys had the nerve to turn on this man.